Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we'll attempt to share the screen here. April 14th in Asia. First topic, I want to see God. Some pertinent suggestions to sincere seekers on where and how to look for divinity. We can be like Swami Vivekananda. Look directly into the question of how to see God. This publisher's desk was written to show Hindus who were interested in the personal experience of God that it can be done in a diversity of ways. Focus of many religions is on helping those who do not believe in God to believe in God. For them, belief in God is the beginning and the end of the process. Pretty simple process. Once you believe in God, there is nothing more to do. However, in Hinduism, belief is only the first step. Hindus want to move beyond just believing in God to experiencing God for themselves. There is a classic story from the life of Swami Vivekananda, one of Hinduism's most well-known modern teachers, that illustrates the Hindu perspective of experiencing God. When Vivekananda was still a university student, Calcutta, he asked many of the foremost religious teachers in the Calcutta area where he lived if they had seen God. However, he never got a clear and authoritative answer from any of them until he met Sri Ramakrishna. During his second meeting with Sri Ramakrishna, he asked the great sage, "Sir, have you seen God?" Calmly, Sri Ramakrishna replied, "Yes, I see him as clearly as one sees an apple in the palm of the hand. Nay, even more intently. And not only this, you can also see him." This deeply impressed the young Vivekananda, who soon after accepted Sri Ramakrishna as his guru. So that second idea there is important. It's great to find gurus who have seen God, but their job is to help you also see God, not just to claim that they have seen him. You too can also see him. Ramakrishna was taking the young seeker beyond belief in God and pointing toward direct experience of the divine. It is clear that the Hindus' belief in God is only a step toward the eventual experience of God. An important second point is that in Hinduism, the experience of God in the sense of complete God realization is the ultimate goal of life. It is an experience we will all eventually have when our soul has achieved sufficient spiritual maturity. It is the experience which liberates us from the need to be reborn on earth. It is to the Hindu everybody's goal. And a basic question here, what is the relationship between God realization and liberation? Sometimes these two get mixed up. They do have a relationship and they are distinct. Answer. God realization happens during life and liberation happens at the end of life. God realization is first and liberation is second. So first we need to realize God, and then we will achieve moksha, the time of our transition. A great sage of North India, Anandamayi Mas, stated the goal of God realization quite beautifully. Man is a human being only so much as he aspires to self-realization. It sounds like Gurudeva, huh? Little scolding there. Man is a human being only so much as he aspires to self-realization. This is what human birth is meant for. To realize the One is the supreme duty of every human being. Nicely said. In our own Guru Parampara, Satguru Yogaswami thundered a similar Mahavakya. Tannai Ari, know thyself. His disciple Markandu Swami liked to stress that Yogaswami didn't give us 100-odd works to do, only one. Realize the self yourself, or know thyself, or find out who you are. Yogaswami said you can't find the truth in 1,000 books, or by listening to people talk. You must realize the self by yourself. What did Yogaswami mean by you can't find the truth in 1,000 books, or by listening to people talk? You must realize the self by yourself. What does that mean to you? Should you never read a book? The answer I like is books and lectures have their benefits, but are limited in how much they can move us forward. We need to put the teachings into practice. So that's like the dancer. The dancer can read a few books, but key to becoming a good dancer is not reading books, it's how much you practice. This experience is called God realization or self-realization. Hinduism distinguishes between self with a small s, which is the ego, and self with a capital S, the soul. That's very confusing in English. Self has many meanings. Self is the English, self with a capital S is the English rendering of the Sanskrit word Atma. In Western self-improvement terminology, what does self-realization refer to? Something quite different than Hinduism. Self-realization in Western self-improvement technology. In Western self-improvement technology, self-realization refers to manifesting the full potential of your outer self, or your personality. You can become an even greater person, even wealthier person. In Hinduism, what is the first step toward realizing the self? That's a great question. What do you think is the answer? In Hinduism, the first step toward realizing the self is claiming one's identity as a spiritual being, a divine soul. What is the second step toward realizing the self? I must have had a lot of coffee when I created all these questions. Lots of questions for you. The next step is realizing the soul's essence, which at the deepest level is also God's essence. So in experiencing our inmost nature, we also experience God. So that's the key there. And of course, this is God as omnipresent consciousness and the transcendent source of that consciousness. It's not God as Parameshvara, the primal soul. To most, the thought of seeing God seems distant and unattainable. Why is that? Though many individuals are inspired by the thought of seeing God, to most the experience seems distant and unattainable. This is because they think of jumping somehow from a 0% consciousness of God's presence to 100% awareness of God's presence. This is where one's concept of enlightenment may be a barrier. That enlightenment is an instantaneous event, coming out of nowhere, totally transforming us like a flash of lightning. It is more helpful to think of enlightenment as a gradual process, which involves increasing our control over our instinctive nature, directing our thoughts better, and expressing more and more of our innate divinity. Said another way, we do not need to wait for the total transforming and liberating experience of complete self-realization to know God in simpler ways. This approach allows us to start seeing God now. So that's a beautiful teaching of Gurudeva's, and gets around this false concept, jumping from a 0% consciousness of God's presence to 100% consciousness somehow instantaneously. Today I'm going to experience 100% of God. So better to start with 1 or 2, then you get up to 3 or 4, etc. Let's look now at 4 specific suggestions on where and how to first look for God. What do you think these 4 suggestions are? To experience God, where do we sit on a mountaintop, enter a temple, go into a cave, or simply close our eyes? Where do we go to see God? Nice looking cave. Perhaps the easiest place to start is to see God in great religious teachers. We feel a spiritual aura about them that is uplifting. We see a light in their eyes that we do not see in others. The mere sound of their words encourages us to live a more spiritual life. This is certainly the easiest way to see God. So lots of Hindus saw God in Gurudeva. Another way to see God, which is a little more difficult but still not that hard to do, is to look deeply into the eyes of another person, look beyond the personality, deeper than the intellect, and see his or her pure life energy as God. The great saying, or Mahavakya, that describes this experience of the divine is the Tamil word Uyir Kuyir, which means God is the life of our life. Oh, we got a little movie here. The practice also includes seeing the life energy in trees, birds and animals, in the lowly mushroom, and the life in the sea. God is our life. God is the life in all people. God is the life in the trees and the birds and in the animals. Becoming aware of this life energy in all that lives is becoming aware of God's presence within everyone and everything. Kauri tree lives a long time. Beautiful verse from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad elucidates this concept. He who knows God is the life of life, the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. He indeed comprehends fully the cause of all causes. In Hindu culture, every time we greet another person with the traditional gesture of namaskar, we have the opportunity to practice looking deeply enough into his or her eyes to see God as the life of their life. In doing so, we fulfill the deepest meaning of namaskar, which means I greet God in you. Third place to look for God is in the Hindu temple. This is a devotional or theistic approach. Hindu temple is not simply a place to socialize or listen to lectures on Hinduism. It is a sacred place built and maintained in such a way that we can go there and experience the divine. Invoked by ordained priests through daily puja rituals, the gods and angelic beings or devas in their inner spiritual worlds are able to bless us through the deity's enshrined image. Image is like a temporary physical body that the god utilizes during the temple ceremonies. One may have a rare mystic vision of God. The usual way you experience the gods and the gods is in the temple is an uplifting, peaceful, divine energy radiating out from the image. It is easiest to feel these blessings or Shakti at the peak of the puja, when the flame is held high. The God's blessings are most strongly felt on their major festival days, such as Vinayaka Chaturthi for Lord Ganesha. A fourth place to look for God is within ourselves through the practice of meditation. Meditation is internal worship, going deeply enough into ourselves to find that part of us that is identical with God. First, we experience God as peaceful and blissful feelings. Later, as a brilliant, clear white light. Later, still, as a consciousness that permeates all. Finally, as transcendent reality, which is timeless, formless, and spaceless. Key to deepening our experience of God is the regular practice of spiritual disciplines. And it is fair to say that no other religion contains such a vast range of spiritual practices, from such fundamental virtues as non-injury and purity to temple worship, advanced yoga practices, and meditation. As an example of this diversity, the listing in the graphic shows 11 types of yoga from the book Yoga, Union with Reality by Swami Ramakrishnananda. So there's something for everyone in Hinduism. Sometimes it's described as being too complex, but it's not actually complex. It just has lots of different approaches. It's like a large university. If you look at all the subjects that are taught, it's complex. But you don't study everything that's being taught at the university. You choose a major and a minor, perhaps, and you focus on those subjects only. So likewise, from the vast range of Hindu practices, you choose a few which fits where you are on the spiritual path at this time. Even though God pervades us in the entire universe in the beginning stages, we don't see him. This is because he has intentionally hidden himself from us, allowing us freedom to grow and learn through experience and eventually strive to find the self within. This is called his veiling grace, Tirodhana Shakti. Once we awaken to a certain stage and yearn with all our heart to see God and know God, we can do so by seeing him in great religious teachers, in the eyes of other people, and by seeing him as the life of the life within all that lives. In the temple, we can experience God's peaceful energy, or Shakti, and within ourselves, we can come to know God through the fine art of meditation. Through all these joyous practices of Hinduism, we can become more and more aware of God's presence within us and in the entire cosmos around us. But be patient. This is a gradual process. It takes practice, lifetimes of practice. Second topic, continuing with karma, since we've been focusing on that the last few times, drawing from karma management, insight section. So the first step in karma management is dispelling two common misconceptions about karma. You have no doubt heard the most common false concept about karma on a number of occasions. It goes something like this. Nothing but bad things happen to me. It's my karma. And even when I strive to do better, my striving has no effect upon it. So why should I even try to make my life amount to anything? It's truly hopeless. How would you respond to this statement if someone said that to you? It's truly hopeless. Some people think that way. I've had that said to me. This misconception must be rejected for two important reasons. The first is that we can actually change our karma through the principles of effective karma management. You can think of karma as something that's dynamic rather than static. It's influenced by everything we do. So we're influencing it every day, though we may not think about it. That's why we need to choose our actions wisely. So the first reason it's a false concept is we can actually change our karma through the principles of effective karma management. Second is that how we live in this life creates the karma we face in our future lives. So why not consciously use the law of karma to create a future that is filled with pleasant experiences rather than painful ones? So our control over the karma of the present moment is limited unless we're really doing intense spiritual practices. But where we have total control is the future. Creating our future by how we act in the present. So take advantage of that knowledge, create an enjoyable future by how you treat others in the present. Oh gosh, second common false concept about karma, which you have probably also heard goes something like this. My life is in a state of chaos. Everything is going wrong, and it all started 3 months ago when Saturn entered Taurus and my karma changed. I have been advised that if I can successfully appease Saturn through having a priest, do regular Shani Puja, my problems will go away. Therefore, this has become the entire focus of my religious life at this time. Shani Puja. How would you respond to this statement if someone said it to you? It's good for your only spiritual practice to be Shani Puja? It's a real person who said that to me. Kuala Lumpur. The fallacy of this attitude is that yes, karmic difficulties indicated by your astrology can be mitigated, but not simply by paying a priest to do Shani Puja. If that is all you are doing to work with your situation, that's not enough. Working through the trying times of life, your primary powers are willpower, devotion, and understanding. Such karma can be mitigated through specific actions performed by the individual, such as those described Part 3 of this presentation, which we're not doing today, but not merely by giving over such duties to others. Second reason this misconception must be rejected is that it attributes the cause of our problems to the planet Saturn, rather than to our own actions in the past. It is like pleading with the jailer to release you from your cell simply because being incarcerated is an unpleasant experience, having forgotten about the crime you committed that put you in prison in the first place. Planets don't determine your karma, and neither do the actions of others. It is self-created, and you are the source of it all, good, bad, and mixed. So those are the two common misconceptions. Third topic, we have Yoga Swami, words of our master. Always inspiring to end with his wisdom. First quote, the whole world is an ashram. What does that mean to you? The Hindu perspective of life on earth is that it is all for the purpose of making spiritual progress and eventually achieving moksha. In other words, As we've talked about before, the world's a subjective place. It's not one thing. It depends on the mindset of the person. As I jokingly say to the teenager, it's a place to party on the weekend. To the businessman, of course, it's a place to make lots of money. To the scientist, no doubt, it's the place to make a great life-changing discovery and win a Nobel Prize. So those are all different perspectives, but to those who are spiritually inclined, we can make spiritual progress by how we handle our experiences in the world. So we need to look at it as a spiritual place because we are approaching it in that way, not that others are necessarily. Second quote, it is not a simple thing to control the mind. It cannot be done in a day or even in a year. Through constant effort, thoughts can be controlled a little. In this way, the uncontrollable mind can finally be brought under control. This is the supreme victory. What does all that mean to you? The thought that comes to my mind is that there is a tendency to underestimate the effort and time it takes to bring the mind under control. This can cause people to give up the effort. Understanding that it is difficult and takes time helps someone stick to the practice to gradually improving the control of thoughts. The eventual goal is beautifully stated in another Yoga Swami quote. Now, we don't control the mind, we remain summa with a controlled mind. Summa being still. In other words, there is a state in the sub-superconscious mind, or in Shum in the fourth dimension, where the thinking mind remains quiet without any effort. So that's the easy way to control your thoughts, is to move your awareness to that area of the mind. But you can't get there if the thoughts are super active. So you got to quiet them down. You're kind of caught in the third dimension to quiet the thoughts down enough to move to the fourth. And then when you're there, it's easy not to have thoughts. Thank you very much. Oh.